Welcome to the latest Watercolors Aquarium Gallery podcast, brought to you from the Aquarium Rush Studios in downtown Grand Rapids, Michigan. My name is Ben.
I'm Amy.
And I'm Charles.
Today, we are going to try and do a little bit of a deep dive, watercolor style, into captive-bred saltwater fish. Of course, we're going to do a top 5 list, because we have to. But we're going to go a little deeper into talking about that stuff in just a moment. But first...
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
You know where you can get some captive-bred marine fish? Come on down to Watercolors Aquarium Gallery.
Wait, we're supposed to be plugging watercolorsaquariumgallery.com.
I want people to come in too, though.
They have to know that we have a fish store, right?
I can't tell you how many times people have come in and they're like, I just found out. I've been listening to your podcast for like a month, and I just found out that you're a store.
In
Really?
downtown
Yes.
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Huh. I guess we're not doing our jobs right then.
But even if you are not in Grand Rapids, Michigan, we would still love to hear from you wherever we can. And you can check out products from us at watercolorsaquariumgallery.com. We've got some fun merch there, aquarium supplies, live plants, but fun t-shirts and stickers and mugs and things designed by Ben and myself.
Yeah, cool stuff. I mean, my stuff is cooler than Amy's stuff. Although actually the little competition we're having disproves that statement. We're doing just a little competition in the store. And you know, it's maybe a 6-pack competition, right?
Everything is a competition.
That's true. But whose sticker designs sell better, and Amy's winning, and I'm not very happy about it.
In June, he's going to come out with the coolest design he's ever come up with.
That's right.
And come out of nowhere.
That's right.
I don't know, promoting it on here, Ben's got more of the cool, funky, rare fish, and I've got some of the more common fish, so maybe we'll even out a little bit.
That's true, and I've got more saltwater stuff.
True.
The wrasse and the triggerfish.
Those are cool.
I know, I like them. But I'm biased. Well, and the shark.
True. The shark is hard to beat.
Right. But the shark drawing is based on a picture you took.
Is it?
It is.
Oh.
Yep.
Little baby Thea.
Yep.
Cute.
Thea's not such a baby anymore.
No, she's big and fat.
Anyway, all right. So captive-bred saltwater fish, right? It's the hot topic right now, and there's all kinds of reasons that you should be seeking out and filling your aquariums with captive-bred saltwater fish. But did you know there are some reasons why you shouldn't? I decided that we were talking about.
I think so too. Because I really wanted this to be like my top 5 favorite fish that happened to be captive bred. And I just couldn't do it. Like,
Really?
It just wasn't. Most of the ones that I like that are captive bred aren't fish that I would necessarily want to pick. So I went with my top 5 favorite fish that are being produced, like as in those varieties, not necessarily that fish.
Excluding all wild-caught fish. Of the fish that are available, these are your favorite.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did too.
Like where, let's say as a bad example, I might like really like clownfish, but I don't like the captive bred clownfish. Obviously, that's not the case.
Right.
But for some of these, it is.
I went with... So I did actually just have 5 this time. And it was for similar reasons. But I went with the ones that have the funnest stories.
Stories are a good way to do this.
It's kind of how I roll, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you and I have
Similar?
not a similar list, but similar methodology for how we came up with our
Right.
list.
Right.
I was looking for a
Yeah.
good story.
I want to talk a little bit, though, about some of the reasons to not buy captive-bred fish. There are reasons that you should still support the wild-caught marine aquarium fish industry, and they're valid. They're important. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Tangential, but I know where you're going. I'm going to sidetrack you just a little bit because
That's okay.
really quick. But just this morning, I was reading an article on Reef Builders by Jake Adams. I think it was titled something to the effect of, "Can we finally talk about the not so great captive bred clownfish?" Referring to the fact that like they some companies aren't culling as much as they should be, and clownfish with deformities, not weird color variations, are ending up in the market.
Mm-hmm. That's a thing. And well, that's a thing that's happening particularly right now because the demand for captive bred fish has skyrocketed in the past 2 years for a couple of reasons. One being that everybody's held up in their homes with a little bit of extra spending money and wants to do something with it. So the marine aquarium fish are moving quite well right now. Mm-hmm. But another thing that's happening is okay, so most marine fish or wild-caught fish come from islands in the South Pacific, where guess what else happens in those islands in the South Pacific? People go on vacation, right? What has not been happening in the last 2 years?
People going on vacation.
Right. So if anyone out there is wondering why there are just some saltwater fish that the price has either gone through the roof or just aren't available, like yellow chorus wrasses. I cannot get a yellow chorus wrasse right now to save my life. That's because they come from places where people go on vacation and they are shipped in the bellies of passenger planes as cargo. If those passenger planes aren't going to the islands, the fish aren't coming back. So that's part of what the demand for captive-bred fish is so high right now, and I think that's why you're not getting the culling.
Yeah. In our podcast with Bill Backus at A&M Aquatics, he specifically brought up how like almost the entire cost for him of fish is freight, and that price has gone up drastically in the last few years.
30 times in some situations. 30 times. So that means, to expand on that point, Bill said, when you're as a wholesaler, you're not buying fish. You're buying water. There happens to be a fish in it, right? The cost at location for an average marine aquarium fish is dirt cheap. Like I heard at one point for a while, a flame angel, a fisher, somebody who caught a flame angel was getting 50 cents for a flame angel, right? All of the other costs, even if you just double or quadruple that 50 cents every time somebody touches it, that should be a $10 fish or less. But then you got to ship all that water to get that flame angel somewhere. But that does bring me to a point of one of the other reasons that we should still continue to support the wild-caught aquarium fish industry. Now, caveat. As long as sustainability studies are constantly being done to make sure that we're doing it right, and there are ways to do it right, I cannot stress that enough, the industry is guilty of doing things wrong and collecting in non-sustainable ways. There's also models of sustainability out there that work really well and we can manage an ecosystem and harvest some fish for the marine aquarium trade and still have a safe and healthy and functioning marine ecosystem. So under that caveat of, yes, we still need to collect marine fish, wild-caught marine fish, in light of this captive-bred discussion, we do need to talk about and remember that, first of all, if we are supporting the wild-caught fish industry, we are supporting ways of life for people who then want to make sure that fishery, that ecosystem they collect from, stays healthy so they can continue to support it, right? So we are supporting a way of life done sustainably that supports protecting marine ecosystems. If that source of income goes away completely, those people are going to have to find some other way to make a living. And instead of catching 3-inch blue tangs for the aquarium industry, they're going to catch 14-inch blue tangs to eat. 14-inch blue tangs are the breeders. 3-inch blue tangs are not the breeders. You will see a reduction in healthy populations of fish if people have to food fish.
Yeah, blue tangs are actually a really great example of that too, because they're one of the fish that we can most often get larval reared. Mm-hmm. So that means that we get the benefits of both being wild collected, so supporting those people, but also a specimen raised in aquariums and adapted for aquarium life. Stuff like that, to me, is like the perfect middle ground between those two things.
Or in situ maricultured corals.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic way to do it.
Yeah.
Doing it, everything done in the United States there's some value to it, or off-site, there's some value to it, but it's not the only way to do it. If we take a fish, harvest it from some village in Palau, and we bring that into the United States at one of the great aquaculture facilities like ORA or Sustainable Aquatics, and breed it there, that little village in Palau is not getting another dime out of those fish.
They're getting the 50 cents they originally got.
And that's it. And they're done. They can't continually get that. So that income stream is gone. They're going to find another way to make a living. They have to.
And it has to be off the land. They're not going down the street and getting a job at Walmart. It's not there.
Right. They live off the water, and that's it.
Yeah. So that being said.
Yeah. But there's more. Keep the gene pool diverse. So brood
That's
stock.
my biggest argument for wild caught.
And keep the hobby diversified. Right? There's right now 2 species of tangs that are occasionally available tank raised, with 2 others that we're starting to see. There's 26 different species of tangs, with 12 or 14 of them regularly seen in the hobby. If we're only relying on tank raised fish, all our tanks are going to look exactly the same. So there we go. I had to go off on that while we were talking about captive-bred fish, because I am not a proponent of everything should always be captive-bred. I know there are probably people out there going, "You're terrible. You're against the environment if you're saying that." No, I'm not. I'm very pro-environment. But people are part of the environment, and people have to exist and subside as well, sustainably. But that's important. Look at Project Paiba in Brazil with cardinal tetras. That one is doing amazing with supporting local fisher people in Brazil, supporting the aquarium hobby, and having positive effects on the ecosystems there.
I think Charles was actually the one to say to me that conservation issues are inherently human rights issues.
Yeah. That's it. Yep, that's it. All right, rant over on why we shouldn't do captive-bred fish exclusively.
Yeah.
But why should we?
Well, okay, so this is actually a total swing in the opposite direction, but it has been such a blast, even over the last 2 years, to watch the marine breeding hobby grow.
Oh, yeah. It's exploding.
The innovation there, the trade of ideas, the insane people that are out there doing it. A lot of these wholesale places that we're going to talk about don't breed their own fish, or at least only breed some of them. They're getting them from individuals out there who are doing it on their own path.
Yeah, that was really cool to learn when we had a representative from Biota on the podcast, where he was talking about a lot of their fish are distributed through Biota, not raised through Biota.
And I would expect it is the same case for some of those funky ones you'll see on other lists too.
I think that's probably true.
Is it a coincidence that 2 of the 3 main captive bred facilities have marine bettas? How many people are out there are doing them?
Right.
You
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I would love to see a little more of the, the behind the scenes tour. Let's peel that curtain back and, let's see if Ori let us see their, and Ori is actually, they're doing a lot of their breeding on site, but it couldn't be all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Waiting for the ORA guy to come in and be like, "Actually, you're wrong. Let me show you all the paper trail."
Yeah.
Yes,
please do, man. I would love
and
to.
Maybe put it on your website too.
Yeah. Right.
It's the type of thing that we're just in the nascence of, that documentation would make a big difference in.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the big, huge pushes for captive bred fish is, under most circumstances, and we're going to get into this part too, under most circumstances, the health of the fish is so much better when they're captive bred. Dotty backs are just such an amazing example. My first orchid dotty back was wild caught. And that fish was really challenging. It was a really hard fish. And a lot of the behaviors that wild caught fish have, I mean, they obviously came through in that fish, but some of those negative behaviors go away. In the wild, dotty backs don't form pair bonds. A male has a territory, females cruise. Female cruises by, he does his little happy dance, they do their little thing, and then he kicks her out and never wants to see her again. And the next time he's going to mate with a different one.
Ideally,
yeah. In tanks, that means you can maybe get away with keeping 2, right? As long as the female, like in a 6-foot tank, and the female can go hang out, spend most of her time on the other side of the tank. We have a pair of orchids in our 210 they hang out together.
I've never seen that before, though.
Right.
It's so weird.
But we're seeing that with more and more of the tank raised fish. If we keep them together through the quarantine process and bring them up for sale and keep them together the whole time, they hang out together. Like they never learned that they're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. Like it's talked about with clownfish all the time that there is a developmental phase that captive-bred clownfish are missing. That's why they do that clownfish balling behavior.
Right.
They're not supposed to want to be together even as juveniles.
Right.
They're typically pretty isolated when they settle, so it's a little bit of a developmental difference.
Right.
Be interesting to see how stuff like that progresses.
Yeah.
Do we want to start off the list? Because I can start off with dotty backs. Neon dotty back was my first pick.
That was your first pick? Mm-hmm. Cool. Start it.
Great, hardy fish. Never tried non-captive bred ones. These just do fine.
I don't even think you can get any of those Red Sea dotty backs wild caught anymore. I haven't seen.
I think neon diamondbacks are technically Arabian Sea.
Yeah, that's true. Aldebrensis?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Regardless, the point stands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you could get them either.
Right.
Yeah, I like the neons, but we use neon and orchid dotty backs pretty much interchangeably here.
Yeah, it's true.
I never, mildly related, but I never got over, thinking of orchid dotty backs as this unattainable $400 rare import.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that they're $50 and readily available has not managed to squander or squash that desire for oh, look at that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're still stunning fish.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Stunning, outgoing, hardy, not assholes most of the time.
Right. Yeah,
Home run.
we should try the pair thing with the neons too to see if it works. It's worked more than once with the orchids, but we should try it with the neons.
We've got 2 neons and QT right now that are hanging up together.
Are they?
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's keep them together.
1 or 2 other pairs come through fairly recently too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I managed to sell a couple pairs. I only say
Perfect.
managed because that means they went through QT together.
Yeah.
And also sold as a pair.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
That feels so good whenever you get a pair of something to sell.
Right.
The neon dattybacks, I will give them the edge for specifically of the 2. In my limited experience, neon dattybacks are much more voracious bristleworm predators.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I've seen them take out bristleworms that are almost as long as themselves,
Mhm.
and their faces will be covered with bristles, and they're just swimming around "Yep, I'm cool."
And smiling. I mean, if you ever see a fish smile with a neon dottyback with a bunch of bristles sticking out of its lips, that makes it smile. Coincidentally, that is the first marine fish that I was able to get to spawn.
Oh.
Fun.
Yeah. And I got the babies to 7 days, and that was in 1997.
Well, if we could just slow down on selling fish for a minute, then we could maybe put a pair in our breeder system, but
We might just need to, because
Right.
we need to get those things to raise up, because that would be cool.
Mhm.
That'd be like a lifelong goal for me,
yeah,
Yeah.
complete the circle.
Getting those to pair up is easy. They do the same thing that clownfish do, only in reverse. They're all born female. The bigger one turns into a male. Boom. If you want a pair, buy 2 little ones. You'll get a pair.
Easy enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And then try it. Raising the fry, I think a lot of people would consider them the second easiest. You know what? I'm going back 20 years. 20 years ago, they were considered the second easiest as opposed to clownfish to raise.
How, because clownfish you usually get them pretty young and they take like a year or two to mature if you get like the teeny orange ones or whatever.
Right.
How long do the dottybacks take?
They're fast. They're mature
They're fast.
in less than a year.
Well, that gives them, I think, a big edge over clownfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're looking to get into breeding fish with speed, I think dottybacks are the choice. Like you can argue some of the gobies, but they seem to take a lot more time to settle down and actually start.
Yeah,
breeding.
actually, it wasn't going to be about the pairing process. If you just want to get a pair, dottybacks are the way to do it.
Well, they mature very young.
Yeah.
too.
But the planktonic stage is the challenge with dottybacks. The clownfish have a 9 to 12 day planktonic stage. Dottybacks are 30.
Yes, but I'm talking about speed of getting to spawning.
Speed of getting spotting. Yeah. Okay. I will
I'm
not disagree with you on that
talking
statement. I will not disagree with you in that statement.
Yeah. They're pretty quick on the draw there.
Right. So many tanks out there should have dottybacks in them.
There.
Yep. Charles, what's your number one?
Number one,
Well, the first one you want to talk about.
Percula clownfish.
Yeah.
I actually have it in my number one spot, but I wanted to be the one to bring it up. I think they just might be my favorite species of clownfish, period.
Really?
And you know what's really weird about them? I have never owned one.
Wow.
This one goes way back for me. So Sue, my mom's friend, was kind of like the saltwater guru for me growing up. And she had the same pair of Percula clowns for like 20 plus years.
That's so cool.
And this would have been back when they were definitely wild caught.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they have this weird edge of like almost mysticism to me where like the mentor had them and I haven't had them yet, but they like having worked with them in limited capacities here, they touch on a lot of what I like about clownfish, and they don't have as much baggage as like trying to pair a pair of maroon clowns. Like I love them, but they're such a pain in the butt.
Oh yeah.
To get along.
Right.
Never had a problem with Perculas doing that.
Yeah, pretty much. You get two of them, put them together, and they're going to turn into a pair.
But I really love the stories of some of the strains. Like the Onyx Percula is actually a naturally occurring color variation from the Solomon Islands and Papua New Guinea, but the captive strains are descended from the Solomon Islands, and they were originally bred by Bill Addison of Sequest.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't know this, he apparently, I only learned this like a few months ago, he would name his strains after rocks he mined in Wyoming.
Oh, really?
So Wyoming white marble, onyx stone.
Ah, that's cool.
So he like set that line in the hobby, and almost every commercial strain available today is descended in some way or another from that line. And that's just cool to me. Rod's Foods, like Mama Perk, is a onyx from that strain. I think my single favorite Percula story is the original Ore Picasso, though. The Ore Picasso was wild collected from the Solomon Islands as a male back in 2004. And if you remember, there were a few hurricanes.
Oh, right.
So they apparently had to move this fish and the onyx clown that they paired it with to like basically a bunker with some of their most valuable broodstock
Oh, wow.
for 2 hurricanes.
Sheesh.
And then they still got to spawn. Almost all Picasso clowns are descended from that male.
What year did... That's right. Sequest got wiped out once by a hurricane, didn't they? I remember that now. Huh. I hadn't thought about that in years. When he used to hang out with Mike King at this little store called the Coral Reef, who had big connections in the Solomon Islands and knew Bill Addison personally. Yeah, he would buy fish from Sequest and learned that whole line. And actually, my first captive-bred fish that I owned were onyx clowns from the Sequest line.
Sweet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was some of the first. Here you go. Yep.
Just
My neon dottybacks that I spawned were from the Sequest line as well.
really.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Yep. I remember the poster that had 4 species of clownfish on it and 4 species of drawbacks on it.
That's really cool.
Yep.
I don't know. And a lot of people come at me and be like, oh, but Ocellaris are better. They mature younger. Whatever. I don't like there's just some sort of je ne sais quoi with Perculus that just really like even the mist bars I like better than a standard or Ocellaris. And I don't have any reason other than I just do.
It's your favorite.
It's your favorite. Yeah.
Well, for any of you people who might disagree with Charles's choice, I put down clownfish.
Just in general.
Yeah.
Just completely.
They're pretty much interchangeable to me.
I put down 1 species of clownfish.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Which
I
one?
did. You can guess.
Did you put down the McCullochs?
Of course I put down the McCullochs.
Those guys look awesome.
Yeah.
Better every day, too.
Oh my goodness, that female is getting insane.
Oh, she's beautiful.
The first time I saw McCulloch clowns on a wholesale list, they were $350 a piece.
Wholesale value.
Wholesale.
Okay.
Yep.
Just making
Wholesale. $350 a piece. Right.
McCullochs are just such a cool fish as a story.
Mhm.
Do you want to tell the story?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So McCullochs are native to this little place off of Australia called Lord Howe Island, and they're actually technically a subtropical fish.
Right.
But Lord Howe Island is actually in a sanctuary. So one guy had to get a special permit for, I think he was given permission for either 6 fish or 6 pairs. I can't remember now. And so every McCulloch in the hobby is descended from those.
That's so cool.
And I think it was a combination effort between Live Aquaria and ORA.
Was Live Aquaria involved?
Yeah.
They were. Okay.
I don't remember exactly. I think what happened was Live Aquaria imported them in, got them to spawn first because keeping the pair bonds for this species. If you think maroons are bad, McCullochs are worse.
You think those were worse?
Yes.
We just got luckier?
Yeah.
Because we've had a harder time with maroons than we did with this pair of McCullochs.
But I spent 4 months with those.
Yeah, that's true.
So anyways,
Yeah.
the pair ponds for the McCullochs would not hold true via shipping.
Ooh.
So I think it was Live Aquaria spawned them first, reared them, and then sent eggs to ORA.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And Live Aquaria, I think they imported in 8 individuals that were like F1s or F2s, something like that, from the original wild caught ones.
Jeez.
So this is a fish that, without captive breeding, there is literally no way any of us would have them.
Right.
Period.
Right. That's part of why I like them.
And a perfect application for captive breeding.
Yeah.
Micromusa lordhowensis, a.k.a. acans. Used to be Acanthastria lordhowensis originally, also from that same place. So if you want to do a biotope, rose bubble tip anemones, which are the natural anemone for a McCulloch, and a bunch of acans.
Be such a good tank.
And it'd be gorgeous.
Yeah, you wouldn't be making any sacrifices with if you
Right.
only had those 3 things.
Keep it at like 74 degrees. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, it'd be a sweet tank. So yeah, McCullochs had to be on my list. They've been they're a fish that like I started wanting those fish like probably when I heard the original story of them being imported, and that was I don't even know how long ago that was, but
It's definitely true for me too.
yeah,
Working with that pair
Yeah.
has been a privilege.
yeah, that we have them is wow. We have a pair of McCullochs.
Yeah.
They're so cool. So they had to be on my list. That's a favorite for me. It's a fish that doesn't get enough love. ORA is keeping them on the market because a few people want them and they think it's a cool story too, not because they're in demand.
Honestly, I think a pair of McCulloch clowns looks much cooler than a pair of domino clowns.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and it's a natural black
Yeah.
black clown. Yeah,
Now, if you want a midnight
Yeah.
clown, this is me just going on a tangent. Okay, I get it. That's fair.
Right.
That's fair.
yeah,
Yeah, I wish more people would take the opportunity to try out a wild type clownfish because that's why they keep being bred is because some people still want them.
We have 3 species right now. The saddlebacks that we've been
Yeah.
doing those
No,
are
we have 4, 5, 6, maybe.
different species of wild caughts or wild
we
type.
we don't have Clarks anymore. We did.
Okay. Oh, we got the blue stripe.
Cinnamon, the blue stripe. We had Clarks for a while. We had McCullochai. Oh, we just sold the lightning maroon.
Okay.
And we're out of the skunks too. But there was a while where we had like 4 to 6 in stock.
Yeah. Which we will continue to do that because it's worth it.
Yeah, and they look pretty.
Yep.
Cool. Clowns.
Clowns. Are
Yeah.
you still going to keep talking about clownfish as your second one while we're on the
No.
topic?
That's my list.
That's all I had to say about clownfish, honestly. But although that is a good highlight for there's some applications where captive breeding is the best or only choice, and that's one of them. One of my other ones on my list is I think that captive bred is the best choice for this fish because you're only getting it for a specific purpose. I chose the green filefish.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
They're raised as juveniles, eating aptasia. They're going to eat your aptasia. Theoretically, they're less likely to eat coral too. So if you need to add a filefish for your tank, a captive bred one is a good idea. Unless it's just so tiny it disappears and doesn't come back out.
So maybe that's a good time to segue as we're talking about our top 5 list as to one of the drawbacks of a lot of the captive bred fish right now is the size in which they come in.
My honorable mentions on this episode are quote unquote honorable mentions.
Oh, right.
The filefish I put on this list because they still do seem to do just fine tiny,
Right.
As long as they don't get lost in a tank. So
Yeah.
they at least survive well. Some of the other ones that come in tiny don't.
So okay, let's say that for after we go through the 5 we love, we're going to talk about some of the ones that break our hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a valuable part of this discussion, mostly because one of my favorite reasons for buying captive bred fish is so that we keep trying it and try to get better with other captive bred fish.
Yeah.
Keep supporting. If you buy a captive bred clownfish from a place like ORA or through us, and we get from a place like ORA or from Sustainable Aquatics, they're going to keep having enough money to keep trying things that we don't have yet or getting better at things that we don't have right yet.
And for that type of reason is, even though I'm a wild type clownfish guy and I think more people should be into them, I don't fault people for the designer strains.
There's some really cool ones out there.
There's some really cool ones, but these companies are using the extra money they make from a designer strain to subsidize doing research for other species.
Right.
So I'm like, if selling, let's say, a Da Vinci clownfish here and there is what it takes for them to be able to learn how to do something new, yeah, that's worth it.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
And we're not going to talk about them right now, but I mean, Biota sells yellow tangs so that they can provide food fish to people who need it.
Right. Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Yeah.
What a weird industry.
Right?
It is. Yeah, the effects that this industry has on education, on the environment, on local human populations and human rights, on
There's so much potential for good from people who just want to take care of things.
right.
Yeah.
It's just not quite there yet.
Yeah. So wait, did you do a
The aptasia eating filefish
Aptasia-
was
there we
mine.
go. Okay, that's right. That's right. Yep.
Yep. They are what they are. They get a few inches long. They eat aptasia. I haven't done any testing to determine if the captive bred ones do in fact eat more aptasia than the wild caught ones, but supposedly that's the case.
Some of those came in really small.
Yeah, but they do get them eating aptasia young and feed them that as like a separate food source. That's something they actually do for them.
Okay.
So theoretically, they already know what it is at least.
Yeah, they're trained.
Success rate with them is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always do fine. My only question mark with that success rate is I don't know what it is when they go home. Like here, they're in critter keepers. They're protected. And that's always been the thing with filefish. They do okay in quarantine, or at least the wild caught ones do fine in quarantine. And then sometimes when they go home into a tank, they go into the rocks and they don't come back out.
Right.
So more More testing needed.
Yep, for sure. That's kind of what it is with captive bred fish. More testing needed. All right, Charles, what's your number 2?
I got another clown.
The blue stripe?
No, actually.
Really?
I mean, it is. We're getting there.
Okay.
But I'm not ready for that.
Are these all clowns?
No.
Okay.
Almost.
So defensive.
Almost.
So defensive, but one of them isn't, I'm sure.
Yeah. Literally one. Darwin clowns. Like true Darwins.
True Darwins.
That makes sense.
And why are they called Darwin's clowns?
Because they're from Darwin, Australia.
Darwin's Bay.
So, fun fact about Darwin, Australia, it is prime saltwater crocodile habitat.
Aye.
Which makes it very dangerous to collect these in the wild. People have died
Yes.
to get these fish.
Yes.
And that is not an exaggeration. So new blood doesn't come in very often.
Right.
But we got to see it happen. Sustainable Aquatics managed to get some, like 5 years ago, a batch of Darwins came out of Australia, and Sustainable Aquatics somehow got their hands on some. And I don't know what generation that they're on now, but when we first got true Darwins in from them, they were F2s, and that's so exciting to
That's
me.
really cool.
That's so cool. And it was just so much fun to be able to have the Darwin clowns next to the Black Ocellaris, which are technically a hybrid. Black Ocellaris is basically so in order to make a black snowflake, the snowflake gene is actually a mutation in orange Ocellaris. So you had to cross with the Darwin clown to get a black snowflake.
And a Darwin is an Ocellaris as well, correct?
Currently now, but the genetic evidence and the life history seems to suggest that they're actually very distinct and probably more closely related to Perculas than they are to Ocellaris.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They take longer to mature, like a Percula. They have smaller clutch slices, like a Percula. That yada yada yada.
Right. I thought cheek spine was a factor as well, like the number
that's just
of.
in maroons.
But I thought that Perculas had 3 cheek spines and Ocellaris had 2.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. We may have to verify that information.
I know there's supposedly a difference in dorsal rays between the two of them, but I've never been able to in person be like, this is very clearly got. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just having F2s of any clownfish was really dope. But it was so nice to be able to have. So finishing the black snowflake story. Wow, I got sidetracked there. But it's a partially dominant gene. So you get a lot of just black Ocellaris. And so that's what's on the market now is a black Ocellaris. They're siblings to the black snowflake hybrids, but they're not showing the snowflake gene.
Wow.
And so that's why the true Darwins are so near and dear to me, because as the wild type guy, I'm like, look, we have the option of hybrid if you want it. But now we have the option of the real McCoy too.
This is a pure strain black clownfish.
Yeah. And that's just so cool to me. And it was so encouraging to me as a wild type guy watching, you would tell people that story, and the significant percentage of people that would choose the slightly more expensive but purebred line just because they liked the story. And that was fun.
It was. We need to get more.
Yeah.
The ones that we have right now, we got them in as true Darwins.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We just don't know if they're F1s or F2s or
We
not.
just don't know what their filial generation is.
Yeah.
But theoretically, they're at least not hybridized.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And they look cool too.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They're so cute.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I love them.
All right. I need a favor from everybody. Everybody needs to call ORA and ask them to bring back yellow assessors.
I was wondering if you were going to pick those up. So they make me kind of have a bone to pick with them by doing that to us. Because I went and looked at all the sites of, there's the 3 main ones. I'm not going to step on toes for saying that, right?
Right.
There's ORA, there's Biota, there's Sustainable Aquatics. In no particular order. I'm not even playing favorites here.
Yep. And that's wholesale places that breed, that specifically do captive-bred fish. Rising
Yeah.
Tide also does it, but they don't have a wholesale thing set up. And there's one other place that also does a lot of captive breeding, but they don't supply stores specifically. Those are the three ones that specifically companies that supply stores.
Right. So Ore was not the only example of this, but I do think that they were the worst example of it. Their stock list on the website is fantastic. It's got fish I want on it.
Yeah.
It's got tons of cool stuff on it. It's got things I'm excited about, things I haven't seen in a while. You showed me the order list. Doesn't look like that.
No. Biotis is the same way.
It's the same way.
It is.
They have brought in tons of really cool stuff, and I
Yep.
look at the list and it's not that many. And I'm not saying they're not wanting to do it. I'm not saying it's their fault. But it's going to take a lot more for supply to meet demand.
Yeah. Are yellow assessors, do they still show up on the
Yes.
ORA?
they're-
Yes,
does
they
yellow
are
assessors.
still listed proudly on the ORA
Probably
website.
the yellows and the blues, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, their list looks awesome on the site. I'm like, all right, sign me up, order now.
Each of these, all of these, their website lists everything they've ever bred and sold.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I called them about yellow assessors, they said, yeah, I know we did those for a while. We're reevaluating the commercial viability of assessors. What that means is demand wasn't there.
Right.
So call ORA and say, hey, will you guys bring back yellow assessors? Because this guy on this really cool podcast wants them. Okay, please.
And then ask them if they want someone that will give us a tour of their facility while you're at it.
Yeah.
Not you, us.
Yeah,
So an assessor is part of the group of fish that includes the grommas and the dottybacks and the basslets. They're all one of those groups of fish. Most of the assessors are deeper water fish, and they live in rockwork, and they often live on walls. My favorite part about the assessors when I had them, and these were ORA assessors, and I had them for about 4 years, and I killed them because I'm a horrible, heartless person who doesn't pay enough attention when he shuts a tank down, and I'm an idiot. And I'm not mad at myself or anything.
You've let it go.
Yeah, completely. Right. One of the funnest parts about these fish was they don't have dominant vertical orientation. Their up and down for them is whichever way they happen to be facing at the time. So I had them in a tank that had a pretty decent wall, and I had them in a tank with a whole bunch of big angels and a whole bunch of other fish, and all the other fish didn't care about the assessors. The assessors didn't care about any other fish. I mean, they got along with them. They were great. But when I would throw food in the tank, they would swim out of the rock work. And if they happened to be hanging out sideways against the rocks, like sometimes you see a goby like hang out on the side of a rock, right? And it'll be on its side. It'll turn itself right side up when it swims out. The assessors wouldn't do that. They would come swimming out sideways, and they'd move up and down in the water column, but the way they were oriented, it wasn't up and down. It was left and right.
That's so trippy.
They were amazing. Sometimes even completely upside down, and they'd come towards the surface for food, completely upside down. Sometimes completely normal. They were so cool. They were amazing little fish. They were a great yellow. Not quite yellow tang yellow, but they were a great yellow. Easy to feed. Didn't hurt anything. Don't touch corals.
I'm smirking because I was going to compare them to a way less cool freshwater fish, and you were going to get mad at me, so I just didn't say it.
Okay, thanks. The blue assessors are the same genus, different species. Basically, it's a yellow assessor with a different paint job. Okay, which fish?
They look just like lemon cichlids to me, the little lip eyes.
Not quite that orange,
Yeah.
but you're not completely
But
wrong.
not like the same bright yellow, but like
Right.
physically the shape and color and size, they look a lot like lulip eyes.
Yeah.
At least it was a cool cichlid.
Neolamprologus lulupi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's okay. I'm not thinking negatively of you for that. But the blue ones are like a midnight blue.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. They're
Did you
actually
do both too?
I only ever had the yellows.
If you could do both of them together, I bet that would be a cool color combination too.
I think that would work too. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what's another fish that needs to be more readily available and isn't for no reason? Bengai cardinals. As long as we're on this topic.
That's on my list, dude. What are you taking my fish
Sorry.
for? Jeez. No, you just ruined it for everybody.
Oh,
Everybody
no.
go. Never mind. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. Charles ruined it.
Oh,
Thanks. Bye-bye.
it was on the bad list for me.
Was it? Ooh.
Oh.
When's the last time we had a good Bengai cardinal?
I know. That's true.
How many years?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
The first couple of batches that we got in did
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then they tanked.
Too tiny.
Even some of the ones that weren't tiny tank. Yeah.
I really wanted to put him on my list because it's one of my favorite saltwater fish.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
That was
Sorry,
such
he
an
just-
angry
He
scribble.
angrily scratched it off of his list.
Fine.
Find your pen, Charles.
I'm not trying to rain on the parade. I really, because I had to scratch him off of mine, so you guys have to do it too. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I want that to be the fish.
All right, never mind. We'll come back to this.
We'll
when
come
we
back
have
to that.
bone to pick.
Right.
So it's going to be really hard for me not to make you guys mad here, but it's going to be too fun. So I decided to go with a viable option instead of the Bengai cardinals, and I selected dwarf seahorses.
You know, I'm used to being the one that presses all the buttons in the podcast, and it doesn't feel so good to have it flipped around on me so frequently.
Because captive-bred dwarf seahorses are pretty hardy, not impossible to keep alive, and fairly easy to breed.
Yeah.
The only thing that you're wrong about is the fairly easy to breed.
Yeah, or they will breed if you keep them alive.
If they're alive, they'll breed.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have a lifespan of like, I think it's 18 months
Wow.
or 24. I mean, maybe it's 36. No, it's short. They have a very short lifespan. I think it is 18 months.
That's really short.
Mm-hmm.
So you pretty much just, let's produce enough to replace the originals. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. When I joined the aquarium club in 1997 or 98, there was a guy in there that had, I think it was a 5.5 gallon tank that he had a colony of a dozen dwarf seahorses or so going for 4 years, and they live 18 to 24 months.
Cool.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's so fun.
Fed him live baby brine, and that was it. They ate it like crazy. That was all they needed.
It's doable. The dwarfs are much more doable than the big ones.
They are. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big ones are so stressful for me. They give me like major anxiety every time we get them in.
The seahorses are super hardy. They're not very dependent on water quality. The captive bred ones will eat frozen food just readily. Just like, hey, there's a food thing. I'm going to eat that. They eat it like crazy.
You just have to keep giving it to them.
Constantly 4 times a day without fail.
Minimum.
Yes.
So do the dwarfs not need to eat as frequently?
They'll just eat more stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess if you're feeding live baby brine, then you have a more consistent food in the tank too, theoretically, because it
Yeah.
can live for a couple hours.
And you can have like your pod populations in the tank that are reproducing. Like some of the adult pods, the dwarf seahorses can't eat.
Oh.
But those pods are producing babies that the dwarf seahorses can eat.
Oh.
Right.
They just seem to be remarkably hardy. This isn't a fish that I've kept personally myself, but I've heard of a lot of people keeping them. And like the people, we had people come in who said, hey, I screwed up. We ordered our seahorses and assumed they'd take way longer to show up. We've got them in a bag at home. We need a tank. We need everything. Those seahorses survived.
Jeez.
Those pygmy seahorses.
Right.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
What other fish could you even say that about? I don't know.
Some killies.
Yeah.
Some killies.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. A decent number of freshwater fish, but no other saltwater fish.
No. That you could go. No.
Amazing.
No, that shouldn't work. That shouldn't work with the
didn't.
dwarf seahorses. But
Our friend who got dwarf seahorses 2 weeks ago already has babies.
that's perfect.
Life finds a way.
He's like, I didn't expect that. Like,
They
it just
need
showed up.
a dedicated tank.
Oh yeah.
What fish can I keep with dwarf seahorses? None.
well, others dwarf seahorse.
Other dwarf seahorses. Yeah. Maybe pipefish.
basically a stretched out seahorse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like if you had a tank big enough for pipefish and still had a tank full of dwarf seahorses, then yeah, like a 55 with a dozen dwarf seahorses and a pipefish.
And no stinging corals.
No
Yeah.
stinging corals.
That's
right.
very important.
Yeah.
But it's doable in smaller tanks too. Some of these people are doing them in 5 gallons. 10 or 20 would probably be a little easier, right?
Now we need to get some.
I know.
You should find us some, Amy.
Ugh.
I can find us some, but you and I don't have to feed them. So
Exactly.
it's a good plan.
Exactly. That's my big hang up with seahorses is that everybody wants them. Everybody thinks that's no problem. We're home a lot. We can feed them 3 or 4 times a day. That would be fine. What happens when you go on vacation?
Yeah. The one thing to keep in mind is here we have multiple people, and the rule is with seahorses here is I keep a thing of frozen food by them, and every time you walk by, you need to give them a few bites.
Yep.
And it still stresses me
Right.
out.
Well, and in that tank, then giving them a few bites, and they were 2-inch seahorses in a 10-gallon. It's a decent enough tank size for them at that size, but the water changes that we had to do on that thing were insane.
Oh yeah, and it was constantly like gross looking because of the water quality. Trying to keep the algae at bay with that level of nutrients in there was challenging.
Even chock full of soft corals.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, somebody send us some of your pygmy seahorses. Someone
try
out there
'em.
has to have them.
Yep. Let's try them. I think that'd be fun. Everybody wants them. Nobody really wants them. The day that somebody comes out with an affordable, automatic frozen food feeder, seahorses become the fish for everybody.
Yeah.
Because that's it. That's the only thing. That's the only holdback for seahorses is
Yeah, forget about a water change, whatever. Forget
they'll
about
handle
one feeding,
yeah.
you're done.
Yeah. There used to be this little free magazine that aquarium stores would carry called Reef Notes. And Reef Notes did a study on seahorses, dwarf seahorses specifically, to try and understand why they need to eat so much. And it's because they have such an incredibly inefficient digestive system with no fat reserves. They don't store fat. So what they did is they took dwarf seahorses and they put them in a tank and they flooded that tank with live baby brine shrimp for like 24 hours, where it was as much baby brine shrimp as those dwarf seahorses could possibly consume. And it was these guys were just mowing them down. Then they took those seahorses and they moved them to another tank. And in 3.5 hours, there were live baby brine shrimp swimming around in that other tank. In other words, the brine shrimp passed all the way through the system and survived. That's how inefficient the digestive system is on a seahorse. That's why they need to eat so much. And so constantly.
Yeah.
Okay, seahorses. Fine. I'm glad you talked about it, Amy. Now I want them.
Yeah, well, it's been dawning on me over the last few weeks, so you're welcome.
What clownfish are we going to talk about next, Charles?
Out of spite, I'm going to choose my non-clownfish.
I knew you were going to do that.
Make your
so
best
spiteful.
choices out of spite.
Yeah. Cuban basslet.
Yeah, that's a badass fish.
Yeah.
I was hoping you were going to bring it up again, because
Right.
even since the last episode that we recorded where we talked about them, I'm like, that story just seems cooler and cooler with time.
Yeah. Oh man, like the Cuban basslet for me is so cool because, like, when I was in college, I was out of the saltwater hobby, and when I came back in, McCulloch Eyes had already dropped in price, and Lightning Maroons had always dropped in price.
Mhm.
But the Cuban basslet thing is happening right now.
Yeah.
It's so nice to get to watch it happening in real time.
Yeah. We're going to see Cuban basslets. Right now, they're like, I think when I saw, they were on somebody's list, and I think we would have retailed them for like $1,500 or something like that.
Yeah.
Or $2,000.
Yeah,
in that
they've
range.
had like crazy pricing that would have brought them down to maybe $1,200 for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The retailed at $1,200.
Right,
All
yeah.
Yeah. The first lightning maroon clownfish that I saw retail were $1,000.
The first Cuban basslet I saw available online was retailing at $6,000.
Yeah. We're going to see Cuban basslets they're going to retail for $150
Yes.
in 3 years. There's no
And
prediction.
I am so sorry. I didn't think to write notes like I did for the last time I talked about Cuban basslets, so I don't have the names of anyone who was involved in this off the top of my head.
Oh, I have that name.
Because these names deserve to be brought up because these guys are cool.
Is it Thomas Rowe?
I'm not sure. I'm horrible with names.
It's someone I stalk on Facebook, so hold on.
But
Tell the story.
yeah, so they're Cuban. That means that
That says a lot right there.
yeah. And so they spent years and apparently thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to import, I think, 6 individuals into the States.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started breeding them. Apparently the hard part was getting them, not breeding them, because apparently they breed fairly easy.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been slowly like disseminating into the hobby.
Mhm.
And the guy who originally started this process is like, if these become a staple in the hobby, I will consider that to be the greatest accomplishment in my life. And
Right.
this is a guy who, if his CV includes like first spawns of like 20 species, and I don't think I'm exaggerating.
Wow. Yeah.
We have a listener who's got a Cuban basslet.
Yes.
We do?
Yes.
And I think he
Wow.
said he got his on a crazy Black Friday sale or something like that and paid like $800 or $900.
Sheesh. They're
Yeah.
gorgeous fish.
They're gorgeous. And they're
Everybody
like
Google Cuban basslet right now.
they're like a reverse.
I mean, unless you're
Royal Brown.
driving. If you're driving, don't. But
But, and then when asked about it, like, why all this effort to get this fish,
Mhm.
his response was something to the effect of, well, I wanted to prove that we can do this right, and we can do this with the law, and we can do this without, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like, everything about this guy, the way he presents himself, the way he does his work, the work he's done, and the way that his philosophy behind it all, I'm all for it. He's so cool.
Oh, Todd Gardner.
Thank
That's the name. There is a second person too.
There
Yeah.
it is.
Yes.
the biopiracy is a thing. It's a big thing. It's happening with in the freshwater hobby, the bucephalandras from Borneo, where people are going in and they're smuggling them out and propagating them. And it's not the proper channels. Don't do it that way.
Yeah. Please
And-
ask where your boost came from.
Right.
Yeah. Also, like a few quick names like Asian arowanas,
Right.
any sort of prohibited species. Shame on you if you haven't,
Yeah.
by the way.
Mhm.
Yeah. Cuban basslets were done legit. They worked with the Cuban government. They worked with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. They worked with a whole bunch of other organizations to find a way to get these fish legally imported in the United States. And they're cool.
I think my favorite part of the story is when they had like fish big enough to sell, like their F1s. They had that moment of like, wait, these are Cuban. Are these embargoed too? And they
Oh,
got
right.
I think it was the Department of Interior involved, and they were
Wow.
like, so what can we do with these? Can we sell them? And the department of whatever department they were talking to was like, were they born on American soil? Yeah. Okay, then they're not our jurisdiction. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
Wow.
10 out of 10.
That's definitely a fish that needed to be brought up today. Yeah.
Have we ever answered the question of how can they be from Cuba? How can they be endemic to Cuba?
The Straits of Florida, which is the water that separates Cuba from the United States, is very, very deep.
Okay.
And I believe Cuban basslets have a short planktonic stage. I don't know that for sure.
Fairly short. That's part of why raising them is so easy.
Okay, that would make sense. So the shorter the planktonic stage, the shorter the planktonic stage, the shorter the geographic range.
Makes sense.
If I remember correctly, the larval phase in Cuban basslets is comparable to a dottyback.
Okay. Okay.
Pretty short.
Yeah.
so not enough time to drift far enough.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. That's on me now, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I want to talk about neon cleaner gobies.
Okay. Yep.
Every tank should have a pair or a group of neon cleaner gobies in it.
I would counter only because I have a slight color preference. I really like the shark nose gobies, but it's literally just
Sure.
same paint.
One has a
paint
yellow
job.
stripe, one has a blue stripe.
Yep.
Yeah. The neon cleaner gobies, I got to see them in the wild. I've seen them in the wild in a number of different places. They have this really cool association with brain corals. It's really fun to see a brain coral with like this whole population of neon cleaner gobies hanging out in the grooves. And on brain corals that were the size of like a softball and smaller, there were these teeny little neon cleaner gobies in it. And the bigger the brain coral, the bigger the cleaner goby.
Nature's ridiculous, and I love it.
It's ridiculous. Yep. We have a, what is that, 9.5 gallon
Yeah.
with a pair in it?
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. I
Yeah.
love that little tank.
I never get sick of it.
I know.
It's just 2 fish and a coral. What more do you need?
I know. It's such a great little tank.
simple.
Right. Super easy. They feed readily on mysis, brine,
Dead
pellets.
skin.
dead skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The neon cleaner gobies, fun fact, their favorite thing in the world is, and this is totally a plug, is sustainable aquatics hatchery diet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they love that
I've
stuff.
seen them ignore mysis if that is floating at the surface.
That's very cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else to say about these guys other than,
Do it.
yeah, just do it. Oh, here's what I want to say about these guys. There's another fish out there that everybody thinks they want, but nobody really wants, and please don't buy them. And that's cleaner wrasses,
Yeah.
right? And so cleaner wrasses are an obligatory cleaner. That means in the wild, they have to consume a certain amount of fish slime in order to properly digest food. If they don't get the fish slime, you'll watch them eat. They'll eat like crazy. They'll feed readily, but they won't properly digest the food, and they'll slowly starve to death. Additionally, and this is the even worse part, cleaner wrasses in the wild form these generational family groups that teach the next generation. They're really not related when they come back.
No.
Like the next set settles on there. The next set of settlers settle onto the cleaning station and clean. And those cleaning stations have been in the exact same places for generations upon generations. If you go and remove the adults from that spot, there's no one to teach the juveniles how to clean, and there's no parasite removal process for certain kinds of parasites in that region anymore for the other fish that
Yeah, that cleaning station's gone.
yeah, and those fish populations depend on it. You see studies that show rises in disease, levels in disease and skin parasites where those cleaner wrasses come from.
It's hard to talk about those stations without anthropomorphizing just because it's behavior that we're so familiar with. It is a multi-generational business. They build reputation with their clients.
Mm-hmm.
If a fish goes to a cleaning station and gets poor service, it doesn't come back. If it gets good service, it does. Those are relationships that are really well documented.
Right.
If it finds a new fish when it comes back, it might just move on and see if anybody else has their doors open.
Yeah.
Even
yeah.
if that happens. So
One of our coworkers here, I believe his degree's in anthropology or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We were describing this to him, and his exact response was, "That's culture."
Culture. I like it.
there's even like currency culture along with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a certain level of tolerance that a client will have to how many nips of slime can this cleaner take before I decide to move on? But it knows that it needs to give it at least some.
Right. Yeah, that's sweet.
It's like the prisoner's dilemma, but fish.
Yeah, it
So
really
crazy.
is. It really is. So these teeny tiny 2-inch fish have all this power over these 4-foot groupers and stuff
That's
like
awesome.
fish
There
are
are some
waves.
companies that are working on, and allegedly there have been some captive-bred cleaner wrasses that have come out. If those come out, I'm all in. Apparently, the need for the digestive slime is sort of like people with lactose, and that if you stop drinking milk, you can become lactose. Some babies are born lactose intolerant, yes. But all of us, if we stop drinking milk or cut way back on the amount of lactose we intake, we lose the digestive enzymes for milk, and then we can't drink milk anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's similar with cleaner wrasses, that if it's brought up, never having that digestive enzyme produced from fish slime, they don't need it, and they can live forever, and they don't become dependent on it. So,
well, not forever, but
yeah, well, okay.
Healthy
They
lives.
can live to their natural ripe old age of 5 to 7 years, depending on how old cleaner wrasses live.
If you've had yours for less than a year, you have not been successful
You have
yet.
not been successful, no.
you murdered it.
You did. Even if the fish doesn't know
Period.
it's dead yet. Yeah. Yeah. You murdered it, and you contributed to the destruction of an ecosystem. Our friends from Sustainable Aquatics are bringing in what they are claiming to be juvenile, not yet established cleaner wrasses that haven't first solidified a cleaning station nor developed the intolerance or the need for fish slime. We tried it. It didn't work. I know those guys. They believe in what they're doing. Keep up the good work. Let's find a solution. That didn't work for us. But
yeah. I would give the caveat of us. I'm sure there. If you have success with them, let us know. I desperately want to know.
yeah. But for right now, my take on it is don't buy any wild caught cleaner wrasses. Let's wait for the captive bred ones to come out. And brings us back full circle to really what we're talking about, are cleaner gobies.
Do buy those.
Do buy those. And they have a remarkably similar color pattern, which just amazes me. That black fish with blue stripes tell fish that it's a cleaning station. Don't eat me, I'll fix you.
So do red and white, which pretty much looks the same underwater.
I know, it's so cool.
What's the really amazing part of all that to me, the most amazing, is not that that system of color patterning to indicate purpose happened. It's that it also happened and ours is the same. Like, we use red and white stripes for barber shops too.
That's true.
What a crazy coincidence.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
That is some deep-seated genetic memory there.
I remember this from when I was a fish.
I like it. Yeah, cleaner gobies. Had to talk about them. I love them. Get some.
Yes. All right. I decided to go with one of my favorite groups of fish, but I think the best captive bred version we've had of it are the coral beauties.
Heck yeah.
They do great.
Heck yeah.
They're just tiny coral beauties.
And they do fine.
Yeah, juvenile angelfish do seem to be better adapted from the start than other juvenile fish.
I think that there's truth in that.
That
yeah.
coral beauty in our display right now is actually a captive-bred one.
It is. Yeah. They're also, it's easier to get them to pair up as juveniles.
Yeah.
They're all born female. The biggest one turns into a male, and you can get them to live as groups. And that makes me happy.
This is a fun fact about the store. If you come into our store and then walk into the saltwater section and you see a pair of coral beauties in the same tank, that means that they're not just two rando coral beauties that are together. That's a pair of coral beauties that spent 4 weeks together in quarantine and didn't kill each other.
Yeah.
Or didn't try to.
Yeah.
And so if you see a pair of coral beauties in one of our tanks, go for it.
Yeah, buy the pair.
They're solid.
Yeah, buy the pair, keep them together. You don't have to, but we strongly encourage it. I think biota is where the coral beauties came from, right? Ora sometimes it does have them, I think.
That I'm not sure about. I don't know if I saw them on their lists. I think Ore occasionally has the pygmy.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we had that list. You have that list.
Yeah, they didn't have much on it this week. It changes all the time.
Yeah. But I don't think any captive-bred angelfish we've had have done poorly.
That's a quick fun fact that we need to address in the podcast real quick here. The availability list from every wholesaler changes literally every single week.
Sometimes every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just because it was here last week doesn't mean that it is this week.
Right. And they don't make them in a factory, even if they're captive bred. I mean, it's closer, But they can't just say, hey, let's work a little overtime to get more of these fish out today, okay? No, doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Decide 3 months ago to work a little harder to start getting those fish out there, if not more.
Yeah.
The coral beauties do come in pretty tiny, but not as tiny as some of these other fish that we've gotten.
No, when we put that one in our established reef tank with some pretty decent sized tanks and
It did fine.
did fine.
The majestic angels that we had were also remarkably hardy.
Those
That
were
was-
amazing little fish.
That was the shipment that came in at like 50 degrees, and pretty much all of them just kind of perked right back up.
Yeah, 3 of them looked like they were lying on the bottom gasping. One of them wasn't even gasping. It was like just sort of jiggling. And then the next day it was swimming around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Angelfish are ridiculous.
They are. Well, and captive-bred angelfish.
Okay,
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I might have one on my list too.
Oh, it's back to me now, isn't it? Jeez. Mm-hmm. It comes around so fast.
This one's like a lot of pressure.
Papua New Guinea lightning maroon clowns.
Haha.
One
All
of my-
right, tell the story.
One of my friends got to see like the second one ever. The one that like is the topic of the story.
Yeah.
He worked at the distributor in Papua New Guinea when that clownfish came through. He's got a picture of him going.
That's so crazy.
Mhm.
So, 2 lightning maroons have come out of Papua New Guinea.
Mhm.
The first one was collected in like 2008, 2009, something
Mhm.
like that. And it ended up in private collector hands. And
Sold for like $15,000.
yeah. Didn't make it though.
It didn't?
It didn't.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then a second one was collected in like 2011, 2012, somewhere
Mhm.
in there. And ended up in the hands of Matt Pedersen.
Mhm. Well, all right. So you got to do a little shout out to Blue Zoo,
Yep.
which they're not a wholesaler that I use, but they really did this right. They knew they had something special. They knew the last one sold for $14,000 or $15,000, right? And so they knew they were sitting on a bunch of money. And so they kind of reached out and said, what do we do here? And they got some offers for $10,000 to $15,000 and crazy amounts of money. And Matt Pedersen said, I don't know what the final number was. I've heard a couple of different things. This is what I can pay, but this is what I'm going to do with it.
So then he took that clown and he actually, so the original lightning maroon was collected off of Fisherman Island, and they actually got a few other white striped maroon clowns from that same island. And he managed to get a pair. He made the decision, and this was like the long game, where he made the decision that the lightning maroon, he was going to take the time and let it become the female, which meant that it took him about 2 years before he got fry. But
Mhm.
it's the safer option
Yes.
because then you don't risk your really expensive rare one getting beat up by a
Females kill males. Males don't kill females.
Yes.
Yep.
And every single lightning maroon in the hobby right now is descended from that female.
That one fish.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like, wow, what a like I'm a wild type guy,
Mhm.
and I still enjoy the aesthetics of designer clowns, but I also get really annoyed of those guys that are like, ugh, designer clowns are like the scourge of aquarium kind. It's going to ruin the hobby. It's going to blah, 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 blah. Like,
No, they're not. Some people like them.
some people
leave them
like
alone.
them. It's fine.
Don't be a
Let
jerk.
people have fun.
Yeah.
We're all cute.
I mean, unless it's the long fins,
Yeah.
because those are just ugly.
Okay, that's too
Yeah.
far.
Right.
But, but at the end of the day, it's like we all want to keep tanks. We all want to keep saltwater fish. We're all, hopefully, all of us care about conservation. And like the lightning maroon, the onyx, the Picassos, the yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Those are all naturally occurring variations in the wild.
Of amazing fish.
Yeah. So just enjoy them.
Mhm.
It's
Yep.
a beautiful fish.
Yep.
And lightning maroons, Matt Pedersen has stated that he thinks that lightning maroons brought white striped maroons back into the hobby. And I fully agree with that
Mhm.
because I remember when I started college, they were kind of on the way out because gold striped maroons mature faster, they pair easier, they have larger clutches, and they're
Not
at
as
that
mean.
time, nowhere near as mean. And at that time, they were more valuable.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, for sure. Right.
Like, if you had to make a decision between the effort of pairing, raising, and rearing white striped maroons versus gold stripes for less money,
Yeah. Why would you?
why would you?
Mm-hmm.
What lightning maroons made them relevant again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, fully, like, what expression I want to use? Hats off to you, Matt Pedersen. White striped maroons exist in the hobby right now because of you.
Yes.
And
Dramatic.
everyone else involved in that.
Yeah. Dramatic contributions to the hobby. Those people get, like you said, hats off. They made significant, notable contributions to the hobby. Yep. I like it. It's good. Okay, now I'm going to talk about lemon peel angels because I love them.
There's
Is that
your
the
angel.
one you were going to talk about?
No, actually, I was going to talk about. I saw a post from Biota today that called. They have regal angels right now.
Yeah.
They're so cute.
Yeah.
I mean, the best part of getting captive-bred angels is they're the cutest things in the world.
When they're teeny tiny? Oh, yeah.
Like, they called them. I think they called them the most reef-safe angelfish.
That's a bold statement.
Or it was one of the most, or something to that effect.
Yeah. I would say that's true with the yellow-bellied, like wild-caught yellow-bellied regal angels. They're
But they claimed that captive-bred ones are more reef-safe.
I've heard that claim before, and I like the idea.
The logic tracks for me, particularly with angelfish, where like so much of what they do is just figuring their environment out.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if they don't see anybody eating a zoa, they don't think about it. I don't know.
Yeah. It tracks. You know, the genus of triggerfish that are considered the most reef safe is the Xanthichthyes, which would be the crosshatch and the sargassum and the blue throat. And their main reason for being reef safe is because they look up when they feed, not down most of the time. So they just don't have it in them to bite things that are on the bottom of the tank.
They just never thought about it.
Right. They never learned that.
Yeah. So I didn't want to mention them in case that was your one.
Nope. Those are worth mentioning because those are very cool.
Yeah. Lemon peels.
Lemon peel angels, the reason that I like them so much is because it's a fish that my wife got excited about.
That's my favorite angel.
They're awesome.
It might be my second favorite.
Yeah.
The Atlantic pygmy is probably.
It's a tough choice for me
It's a
too.
tough one.
I'm just really glad nobody's going to make me choose because then I would have to say multicolor and I don't want to.
Yeah.
Even though I love multicolors, but I don't want to have to just pick one.
Let me choose which foot to shoot.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Or which foot's my favorite foot? I'm glad I have two. I don't want to shoot either one, but anyway, lemon peel angels. So there's varying degrees of reef safeness considered with lemon peel angels, and allegedly the captive-bred ones are less likely to pick at corals for the same reasons the regals are less likely to pick at corals. We're going to be doing some testing on that next time we get some in, which hopefully will be soon.
Yeah, we got to do a podcast on the reef safe thing because I have some questions
Yeah.
about what that means.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't. It's true. No.
Anyway,
Yeah. Talk about Burton's powder brown tang and the Haig's
fox
Fox
face
face.
and
Uh-huh.
and their coral beauty.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, lemon peel angels. I like the little teasers we put in there. You know, it's kind of fun. Other than they might pick at your corals, they have this incredible personality and they have eyeshadow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's why my wife likes them so much, is because of the eyeshadow. It's a beautiful yellow with this nice blue eyeshadow on them and
Very 80s.
very 80s. Yeah. My wife is a child of the 80s, so, you know.
You know, honestly,
I mean, her teen years.
As a fellow married man, a fish that catches the wife's
You mean
attention,
a very, very young child.
Yes.
Not that young. Normal young.
Normal young.
It's okay. People don't know how old you are either, Ben, so it's not weird.
Wow, you got flushed after that one, Amy. Look at you.
Oh, I just didn't want you to call your wife old, Ben. I'm looking out for you.
She doesn't listen anymore.
Good.
My wife definitely listens.
Does she?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, we'll keep that in mind. What embarrassing things can we say to Charlie? My husband's here right now, so but he still doesn't listen.
As a fellow married,
He didn't even look up.
what a guy.
Right.
As a fellow married man, any fish that catches the wife's eye is definitely a valuable fish.
Oh
so-
yeah.
Yeah.
Period.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's part of their charm. But the and it's why you brought up coral beauties. Angelfish, we keep angelfish, yes, because they are some of the most majestic fish you can possibly put in a tank. But the personality that comes out on those fish, they all get that. And even in the wild, when you go snorkeling or scuba diving and there's an angelfish nearby, that fish is watching you. And if you go watch it and get closer, it comes over and go, "What you looking at?" Like in the wild or in your tank, if you're going to store and you're picking out an angelfish, stare at it. With a lot of fish that freaks them out and they go hide and they disappear. With angelfish, they're going to look around the corner, kind of like a little 2-year-old. Like, "What you looking at?" "I'm not looking at you." "What you looking at?" "I'm not looking at you." And they do that that sneaky little sneak around the corner personality thing. That other fish they don't have that level of personality.
Yeah. They know you're not a threat
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
because they know.
Right. There's a species of tang that as a juvenile mimics lemon peel angels. And the only explanation that anyone has come up with so far with why it's valuable to mimic a dwarf angelfish, and actually it mimics there's 5 or 6 different species it specifically mimics, and one is specifically the lemon peel angel. But the only explanation anybody's come up with so far is that angelfish are really intelligent, and that makes it difficult for predators to catch them. So if you look like an intelligent fish, maybe as a predator, you're going to go, "Oh, that's one of those angelfish. It's not worth even trying because they're too smart." It's the best explanation anybody can come up with why a chocolate tang juvenile should mimic a lemon peel angelfish.
If you're comparing intelligences, that matches up.
Right. Yeah, because tangs are definitely not.
God.
Yep. So yeah, I had to put lemon peel on the list. I've seen them for sure through Biota, and I'm pretty sure ORA has had them as well, but I'm not 100% positive on that.
When we got the one from ORA, it was like a select. It wasn't a captive-bred one. It was an adult.
I think you're thinking sustainable.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, sustainable it was.
Yeah, so maybe ORA does have them too.
Maybe it was just... Anyway, they're out there. There are a number of other species of dwarf angelfish that are working with. There's somebody doing interruptus angels, which those are outrageously amazing.
Bicolors we've gotten from Biota before.
Yeah.
Majestics we've gotten from them.
Yep.
Has anyone done flames?
I know flames have been bred on the hobbyist level,
Yeah.
but I don't believe anybody has them on a commercial level with any viability yet.
They don't seem to, I'm saying this with the caveat of it could have changed, but at least the first few batches I've seen, they don't seem to color up like the wild ones do.
Ah, okay.
And if that's the case, that's why no one's breeding them.
That was the case with dottybacks at first.
Yeah.
They'd ship with this weird pale color. The orchids were like this kind of soft pink, more of a lavender, if you will, and it didn't work. But obviously, that's been solved. Yeah.
I'd probably find that kind of endearing in a dottyback though, because I'm messed up.
Yeah, it wasn't. It didn't look like, oh, it's a soft pink instead of a hot pink. It looked more like a, ooh,
What's going on there?
what's going on there?
What's wrong with that
right.
dottyback?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You know, it probably would elicit that same response that like the husband of the actual fish keeper that saw like the really messed up rescue pleco, and he's like, "We need to love it."
Oh yeah, exactly. All right, yeah, you're right. All right, that's it. That's what I had to say about lemon peel angels.
It's
I
a
love
great
them.
choice. See, when we talk about the angels, that's when it gets kind of frustrating to me, because I would love to be able to order from all of these captive breeders 3 times as often as we do.
Right.
And it's just the fact that they don't often have that much that we want to order.
Right.
If every one of them had 3 angels on their list, we'd probably be able to order from them that frequently. But
Yeah.
we're lucky if some
Yeah.
of them have 1.
Right.
Yeah.
More people have to want them, but really more people have to breed them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
there's a lot of talk of like, what's the future of the aquarium hobby? Where's regulation going to put us? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's where we will need captive breeding.
Yeah, or
Some populations of some fish that are being
Right.
produced and preserved.
or the industry goes away. All right, Amy, what's your last one?
I was trying to really pinpoint one for my last one, but honestly, every goby that we've ever gotten from a captive breeder that's less than 4 inches is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't speak to the ones greater than 4 inches because most people don't want them.
Because they eat stuff.
Yeah, but all those nano gobies, the Trimas, the Aviotas, the
Yellow Watchmans.
Yellow Watchmans, the redhead and green stripes, which are in the same genus that I can't remember what it is. Awesome fish. So hardy. We've
Right.
had a Trima goby for about 8 months now in a critter keeper on its own.
It's doing just fine.
Be great if we could sell it, but it's really hardy.
I would put that fish without a problem in a 5-gallon tank.
Oh yeah.
One of the only saltwater fish that I would say put that in 5 gallons and you're not doing anything wrong.
Make sure there's an actual filter on it, and I'd go smaller than that, I think.
I would, but not publicly.
Oops.
Give him a few more beers. Let's see what he says.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, I get it weird about tank size too, because if you're scaling down, like if a 30-gallon is a decent size for a 4-inch coral beauty, then those fish can go in some teeny tiny tanks, and then it's just about if you can maintain it.
True. Yeah, and the range of these fish is just it's tiny. They don't swim around. The green banded gobies, which we've had those in stock regularly, captive bred. That's a native of the Caribbean. And I saw my first population of green banded gobies when I was cleaning out the bottom of a boat. It was in the well inside the impeller shaft. So underneath the boat where the impeller shaft goes through the hull, there's this cavity. And there was a little colony of green banded gobies
my gosh.
living upside down in that cavity. And that was the thing, right? Everybody talks about gobies as having a less defined swim bladder. That doesn't mean they don't have a swim bladder. So these fish scooted around as though up was down and down was up. Right? So if you float, you get and there's something above you, you can walk on that, like as though gravity is working the opposite, and that's how these fish behaved perfectly. So, but the range, those fish didn't go more than like a foot
Right.
away from that little hull, and there were 6 of them living together in that little spot.
That's
It
cool.
was awesome.
So put them in a 10-gallon tank instead. Those 6. What fun would you have with that?
It'd be a blast.
So cool.
Yeah, yeah. Gobies, love it. Charles, it's your last one, man. Make it count.
Yeah, I left this one for last because this one is probably the one that I love the most and hate the most right now.
Ooh. Okay, what is it?
It's a blue striped clownfish.
I should have known. How did I not know that?
I got back into keeping saltwater tanks because of this fish, and with multiple discussions with my wife and my sister, I finally managed to admit that I got out of keeping saltwater tanks because of this fish. Blue striped clownfish are a fish that probably for like a decade or so I've wanted to work with. They ship horribly as wild caught fish. I think their survival rate is something like 7%. It's just something absurdly low. And so I was like, never going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. But then captive-bred ones came along, and there are very few places in the world breeding them, and only one that's available to us.
Uh-huh.
And that even then, only occasionally. We got in a pair.
Mm-hmm.
I took them home.
Mm-hmm.
I had set up a tank specifically for them. It was my first saltwater tank in almost a decade. And I told myself, I'm going to try and breed these someday. I want to work with this species. And I spent a year and a half with them. And then literally overnight, the female killed the male. And within 72 hours of that, that's when the lightning maroon pair I was working on here, the female killed that male. And I had spent about 2 months on that. And so cumulatively, that was like 18, 19 months of work, somewhere around there. And I think that was a little bit more than I could bear.
What size tank were you blue stripes in? 29?
A 30 long.
So that's just been plenty of room.
And so, anyways, me and Saltwater right now are taking a break. So maybe someday.
And yet you still have 4 clownfish on your list.
I know.
Right.
Like, and honestly, if I get back into saltwater, I don't see myself going for lightning maroon like I would have like a year ago. I don't see myself doing another blue stripe pair. I'm probably going to do perks.
I could see it. Yeah, those blue stripes are cool ones because, you know, I see pictures of them in books, and in books they look like a Clark's group.
Yeah.
Right? And you see in the picture, you see a little hint of that blue in the photograph, but sometimes a picture of a Clark's in a photograph, it looks like there's a blue hint going on there.
Yeah, they're under blue lights. They look blue.
Yeah, exactly. This one, when you see it in person, you realize, oh, that's actually blue.
It's kind of freaky. It's almost ethereal.
Yeah.
It doesn't look real.
Right.
Yeah, my brain sees it as a reflection.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
One of the coolest fish I've ever owned.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think my heart can try again. That was,
yeah.
In hindsight, like I'm finally able to admit it. That was so devastating.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you don't often get like all the aftershocks of something like that until later on, because in the moment you're like, oh, this happens, let's move on, but it's never actually that. You never really feel that way.
Yeah.
Probably barring I in this moment I can't think of me personally as a hobbyist as a more devastating setback I've ever had. Like that was crushing.
Yeah.
And the part of why it's so crushing is I don't know if I can even find another male even if I wanted to.
I know that feeling. Yeah, I know that. Yep.
But how much worse would it be if you did and it happened again? It's both of those things.
Yeah, that's another reason why I'm like, no, I think if me and saltwater right now just need a break period. But if I come back to it, it's not going to be a blue stripe. I don't think I could do it.
I had a juvenile Chrysalis angelfish that I got really cheap, remarkably cheap, cheaper than it should have been. And I had that was one of my holy grail fish, and I had it for about 6-8 months. And then I got a different fish. I don't remember what I put in there with it. And the next day, that new fish had killed my Chrysalis angel. And I broke down my angelfish tank and got rid of it after that.
Yeah.
Yep, I was done. And I had like 5 or 6 other angels living together in a 160-gallon aquarium. And like, nope. You know, the idea was to raise that Chrysalis up and introduce it to the group, and done. You get those blows that just knock you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh man, that one really took the wind out of my sails though.
Mm-hmm.
That took the wind out of my sails so hard that it took out my Helfrich's firefish tank too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really shut down some holy grail stuff after that. I get it.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But I think this is a perfect transition to when captive breeding doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I got my last fish yet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
I got one more.
Oh no.
Yeah.
What do you got?
We've talked about all kinds of fish in the clownfish group.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about a bunch of fish in the goby group. Mm-hmm. We've talked about a whole bunch of basslet types, a little bit of the seahorse type, but we haven't gone into different families. I'm not just going to go to a different family. I'm not just going to go to a different order. I'm going to go to a different super order.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to talk about epaulet sharks.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is a holy grail fish for me. And they are available commercially captive bred. And often that's one of the few fish like clownfish now that the captive bred specimen is so much cheaper.
Yeah.
Yep.
Honestly, if you're doing a home aquarium shark, I don't think you can do better than an epaulet.
It's hard to argue.
Tempted to put on that mini nurse shark from ORA just because I really want to see one.
I know. Yeah, the mini nurse shark still gets. You need to be in the 300-gallon range at least for that mini nurse shark. For
but
the
it's
epaulet,
cool.
I'd put the smaller species of epaulet. I can't remember what the species.
Oh, like the Hellstroms or the tri something.
Yeah, I would put those into a 4 foot by 2 foot 120.
I could see it.
Yeah, not a 6 foot by 18 inch, but the 4 foot by 2 foot. Really, a 180 would be best.
Mm-hmm.
But I would put.
If
them
you're
in
going to do the 120, the sum should be the same size.
Yeah, it's true. Exactly. Yeah.
At least.
You guys have heard us talk so fondly of the sharks that we have here. I love the sharks that we have here. There's always been something about an epaulet. The first time I saw one it was life-changing.
They have an air of regalness to them.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
very hard to convey.
Right. And an awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're cute.
They're so cute. It's a totally different setup, a totally different system than any of these other fish. They might be the one that I would say, if you want to do a 120 and you want to do some coral in it, as long as you've got some wide open spots and you lift all of your coral stuff up so that there's a whole bunch of room underneath for the shark to move around underneath the coral, underneath your live rock system, I think that could be a pretty sweet thing. The big challenge with any shark that's appropriate for a home aquarium, which anything that looks like Jaws is not. Sorry, guys, no black tips. Even bonnet heads, not allowed. But anything that is appropriate for home aquariums, it's bamboo sharks, cat sharks, epaulet sharks, the sharks in that group. The big challenge is what to keep with them. And I know the first thing you're thinking is, right, because the sharks are going to eat all my fish. No, they're not. They're not going to eat it if it doesn't fit in their mouth. And all of these sharks have small mouths, except, Wookie, but that's a whole different topic. But the epaulets and the bamboo sharks and the cat sharks, they have small mouths. I mean, yeah, there's definitely some fish that they can eat, some long, skinny fish they can eat. But mostly their lifestyle it revolves around, most of the time, the rest period, pretending to be a rock. That's how they hide. That's their camouflage. So any fish whose lifestyle revolves around picking things off of rocks for food, they're going to pick at your sharks. And that includes tangs and angelfish, definitely triggerfish and puffers. But anything that picks at rocks, you cannot keep with your sharks safely or comfortably. It's a bad idea.
You're pretty much with groupers, lionfish.
Gulping predators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The main groups.
Yeah. But epaulets are amazing.
I don't think sharks need tank mates.
They don't. They don't need coral. They don't need tank mates. Just set up a tank.
That all just gets in the way.
Put a shark in it. Right.
And from somebody who wouldn't set up a tank without coral, you don't even need that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sharks can carry a tank on their own.
For sure.
Pets.
Mm-hmm.
They are.
Yeah. And we were just talking the other day, should we add more tank mates to the shark tank? Well, we need to redo the tank to put rock work in there for them. And I don't want a lionfish in there that's going to stop me from petting the sharks.
Yeah.
Let's leave them in there by themselves.
I think they're good the way they are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good choice.
But epaulets had to be talked about. So there we have it.
So there.
Yeah. I'm going to make a little proposal here that part 2 of this podcast is the drawbacks of captive-bred fish. And those fish we still need to work on. Our top 5 captive-bred fish that break our hearts.
Ooh, that's fun. We mentioned some of them here. And I bet if you're in any way aware of what's going on in the marine aquarium hobby right now, you're like, but wait, there's one that you didn't talk about. It's really important. Everybody's talking about it. Yeah, I don't think we need to. That's for that episode.
Yeah, I agree.
So
there's probably some other fish out there that people are going, yeah, but guess what? Now you can get tank raised this. Like Amy kind of teased us with Banggai Cardinals, or Charles did. One of you guys did. Oh yeah, you did. You burst that bubble, and we touched on that.
Sorry.
Not all captive bred fish are what you want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
So listen for that episode. It's going to be coming up soon.
It'll be the list of fish I want when I'm ready to rave somebody else's fry.
There we go. Nice.
Yeah, I think it's probably good to end it here. These are the fish we're really excited about. Be sure to reach out on Facebook and Instagram. We've got a Watercolors Aquarium Gallery podcast listeners group on Facebook. If there's something that you feel like we should have talked about that we didn't, let us know. Maybe it'll be in the next episode. Maybe we just forgot.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Wait, did we do the shameless plug again?
Oh, yeah, and go to watercolorsaquariumgallery.com and buy something with a shark on it.
Yeah, because sharks are cool.
Or live plants. I know this was a saltwater episode.
Oh, we do have those too. Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know what else we need to stock for you. We try to keep pretty much everything we've got in stock in the store on the website, but we're happy to put anything else up if you need to, as long as we can ship it.
This one was a fun one. Hopefully you guys had a lot of fun too. Thank you so much for listening, and let's keep those hands wet.